Julia Gillard has
Thank
just
you
begun a
very
media
much.
conference in Canberra.
It's a pleasure to be joined today by the Premier of New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell. I'm also joined by Jenny Macklin, our Minister for Disability Reform, and Andrew Constance, who is the Minister for Disability in New South Wales. And we're here today together to make a very important announcement about the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The reason we're so determined to deliver a National Disability Insurance Scheme is we want to make a difference for the lives of 410,000 Australians who have serious disabilities. For those 410,000 Australians, they currently face an underfunded system and a fragmented system, and it can be hard for them to get the care that they need. But having a National Disability Insurance Scheme, whilst it's about those Australians, is actually about all of us, because any Australian is at risk of getting a disability during their lifetime. Any Australian could face the birth into their family of a child with a profound disability. Any Australian could be involved in an accident that left them with a profound disability. Any Australian themselves or through a family member could see the ravaging effects of some of our most debilitating illnesses and the disabilities that they give people. So creating a better system of care for people with disabilities is creating a better system of care for all Australians, giving Australians a reassurance that with our resilient economy, we can keep on building the great Australian project of a proper social safety net. We can keep on building the great Australian project of a fair go. Piece by piece, we've worked to develop the National Disability Insurance Scheme. At the last Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, we sat, and in the days that followed the COAG meeting, we agreed to launch sites around the country, including in New South Wales. Since then, I've introduced into the Parliament the legislation for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And today here, with the Premier of New South Wales, I'm in a position to announce that the Federal Government and the New South Wales Government have reached an agreement about how to support the full National Disability Insurance Scheme in New South Wales. We are agreed on having a launch site in the Hunter region of New South Wales, and then when it comes time to move from that launch site to the full scheme in 2018, we have reached an agreement about funding shares and mechanisms for that full scheme. At its most simple, what it means is that the Commonwealth and the state will share around half of the burden, that the Commonwealth and the state will each put in an extra $3 billion more for care and support of people in New South Wales. This means 140,000 people in New South Wales with disability now can look forward to being supported by the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it means all of the people of New South Wales can look forward to having the reassurance of knowing that should trouble ever strike them or their family, they would be supported through such a scheme. To give you the precise details, the Commonwealth will contribute 51.4% of the total cost of the National Disability Insurance Scheme in New South Wales from financial year 2018-19. That means that the Commonwealth will contribute $3.319 billion and the New South Wales Government will contribute $3.133 billion, a large injection of funding to care for people with disabilities. We have worked hard on this arrangement together, and I want to thank Premier O'Farrell for his leadership and for being the first Premier to enter such an agreement with the federal government. I do want to reinforce that this deal now sets the benchmark. It shows to the other states and territories that it can be done, and I am determined that it will be done. I want to build a truly national scheme, and other states and territories can now look at this example and work with us to build on this example, with this deal setting the benchmark. Around the country, many people, many Australians with disabilities, their loved ones, their carers have looked forward to seeing a national disability insurance scheme developed. Many of them thought that they would never see the day. I hope from this announcement today that piece by piece they are seeing this get done, that piece by piece they are seeing us build this major reform for the Australian people, and I'm very proud to be here to do it. I'll turn to Premier O'Farrell for some comments.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Look, this is an important day for 120,000 people with disabilities, their families, their carers across New South Wales. This gives them the guarantee that they've always deserved. This delivers to them the National Disability Insurance Scheme that has long been sought after. What I'm delighted about today is that in New South Wales, where we have the Stronger Together program, which has always been a matter of bipartisanship, we also have bipartisanship within the federal parliament on NDIS. That's important because this should be above politics, and I think this agreement today demonstrates it is above politics. This will ensure that for those families, those individuals, those carers who are affected by disability, that long-term support beyond the launch will continue. So, Prime Minister, thank you. Thank Jenny Macklin. I want to particularly thank Andrew Constance, who is the Minister for Ageing and Disabilities in New South Wales, hasn't only worked hard on this program, but has worked hard particularly to give control and choice to those with disabilities within New South Wales. We think this is not just a fair deal, this is the appropriate deal, this is the necessary deal that people with disabilities deserve, and I'm delighted that New South Wales is the first state to reach agreement with the federal government.